Hey guys, it's Ranger Red and welcome back to another League of Legends Arcane video. I finally got to record this. I actually recorded this video before. This is my second attempt of trying to record this video. But guess what happened? The footage got corrupted. I hate technology. But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna record this. I'm re-recording this video basically, and to be honest, I wasn't really that much of a fan of how the first video that I was recording of this was turning out. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll try to do it a little bit more concise. Because I was supposedly going to do both my immediate reactions of both Act 2 and 3 of Arcane, their second season, to be separate videos at first, but that ended up not happening because personal schedules outside this channel, it just piled up. And then that was when I started to record my first attempt. File got corrupted. I wasn't really too happy about it, so I'm re-recording this now. So instead, I'm actually going to do, again, both, but I'm mainly going to be focusing on what I believe is the very, very, very important details, at least, for both the final two acts of Arcane Season 2. And I'm also going to answer what they should be doing next. So, let's start with Act 2. Act 2, it was essentially Caitlyn going through her dictatorship arc. By the way, she got on with Maddie. I don't know if that was supposed to be a fling or that was like a long-term thing that she was doing just to try and cope with the breakup that she had with Vi, but it's probably the latter. And the situation of Zaun, or at least the Undercity, um, it essentially was in dire straits. But we also saw the newest development where citizens of Zaun started to dye their hair blue like Jinx, and they became Jinx's followers. This is a criticism that I have. They could have maybe had a bit more time of developing of like, okay, why were these people following Jinx and all that? It's like the only explanation that they have is that she was just wanted by the by the Pilties, and they're like made her immediately into a martyr, and that's pretty much it. Like, I really wish that they expounded on that more, but that was all. And Vi also had her own way of coping with the breakup, and that was when she decided to go into the fighting pit, just punching people right in the face, beating up people, drunk. And I mean she was drunk. Also, her partner, the Vander lookalike enforcer, whose name is Loris, I finally found out what his name was. His name is Loris, was trying to help her, but as she got more and more drunk and just get more and more intoxicated, yeah, it just spiraled there from there. And considering the martial law implementation from Piltover to Zaun, Civica has essentially took on a bit more of a leadership role, which was when she held a gathering of all of like different Zaunite citizens from different gangs, organizations, backgrounds. It doesn't matter. They were all there, and they were gathering at Vander's statue. And she said it doesn't matter if you're a follower of Jinx, from the Firelights, some other organizations that were from the old Chem Barons who apparently died. I don't know how they died, actually. I legitimately don't know how they died. Uh, but yeah, they're dead. Smeech, that girl, and the gentleman-looking guy, he's dead. Wish, again, they could have expounded a little bit more on that. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, this meeting, or this gathering, it got ambushed and attacked by the Noxian forces that were there to assist Piltover in enforcing martial law. And it was because Rictus took this guy into custody, tortured him, and got the information out of him that they were going to have a gathering, and that's how it went. But the thing is that within the gathering, in the crowd, Singe was there. And what did he do? slit his hand, drips the blood all the way to the floor, and that revealed our first, our well, not first, but our true introduction to Warwick. Now, if you guys don't know who Warwick is, I don't blame you because all of you guys don't play the game. But Warwick is essentially Vander. Vander is essentially Warwick, and Singe experimented on Vander and made him into Warwick. Now, his design in Arcane is very very different to the design that he has in game. I mean, in game he is more wolf-like, um, but obviously they redesigned Warwick so that it can look like Vander a lot more because again, not everyone plays the game and not everyone would know. So Warwick gets in pursuit of the trail of blood that Singe goes on, where they get to Stillwater Hold, which is like the prison of Piltover and all of that. And the thing is that Warwick and Singe seem to be connected because there are moments where the trail of blood literally just goes directly straight to Singe, and that's despite when other blood is spilt from Warwick's killing spree. And it's probably because Singe uh, injected his own blood into Warwick, so it kind of makes him more connected to him instead, which is quite cool. He also fought Savika, but Savika didn't have any major wounds, so that goes to show how badass that woman is. That big mommy milf of that woman is. I should not have said that. Oh, god damn it. Alright, so speaking of the Warwick killing spree, this all happened in Stillwater Hold, which is the prison. Basically, everyone died, and it was then, during sort of the attempted uh, jailbreak that was held by that was planned actually by Savika and Jinx. That was when Jinx went face to face with Warwick, and despite her blasting him with her Hextech powered pistol, didn't really work out because Warwick has an insane accelerating rate of regeneration, and the only thing that stopped Warwick's killing spree was the fact that when Jinx pulled out like a grenade, which was like her chomper grenade, he calls it chomper. When Warwick sees it, Vander resurfaces, and it seems like his humanity is still there. That's why he said powder. And from there, Warwick apparently, or Vander, I should say, Vander essentially just escaped down into like the old mines where him and Silco used to work together as miners. And this was, I think, one of the most important plot points, at least to the season of Arcane. But the most important piece of lore was the recruitment of Singe to the Noxians, more specifically Mbessa. Now, at first, Singe was getting interrogated by Caitlyn and Mbessa, but obviously Singe did not crack. The only way that he was able to crack was essentially being promised by Mbessa that he would fund his research. But the catch was is that with his funding, he should also be under the condition that he would make weapons for the Noxians. Now, for us lore nerds, this is huge. Like, for the people who know the lore, like the wider lore of League of Legends, like in like the universe, this particular moment right here will snowball essentially a lot of major events that would happen all over like the universe, essentially in the world of the universe of Runeterra. That's what it's called, Runeterra. Runeterra is basically Earth in the League of Legends universe. But the recruitment or the deal between Singe and the Noxians and Singe making the weapons is going to set up a future invasion of another region. Now, we will get to that by the end of this video. And the other thing to note here is that the reason why Singe is doing all of his experiments like Warwick and all the other failed experiments that is shown around the lab, which is literally just a room of war crimes, is so that he can beat the most natural thing in this universe and essentially like real life as well, to beat death. And in this lab, he essentially kept his daughter, who is confirmed to be Oriana, which is awesome because in the lab when they finally get to there, Caitlyn drops another massive lore bomb. Besides like the recruitment or like the deal between Singe and the Noxians, Caitlyn decided to drop another massive bombshell of a lore, and that was that Singe is Dr. Corin Revek. Now, in the lore, Corin Revek was the father of Oriana. And this in that particular moment where it was shown, or when the name was dropped, Caitlyn revealed that it, at least in the new revisions of this, like the new version of like canon lore now, is that Dr. Corin Revek was an alchemist who got dismissed by Heimerdinger, even though they were quite close. And we can honestly suspect like the reason why he was dismissed by Heimerdinger was because of Singe's prospects of maybe doing a lot of these gruesome experimentations and all that stuff, which is fucking awesome. Because at first we were actually not so sure what they were going to do with Oriana. We thought that she was going to get like her father boycotted, but no, we instead have Singe as her father. Honestly, it works. It makes sense. So that was like what I would feel is like the most important piece of League of Legends lore for everything to snowball from there and essentially lead to like the future spin-offs. But again, we will get to all that future stuff by the end of this video. So going back to Vander, Jinx, and now Vi. Vi, after getting a little bit sober, Jinx meets up with her again and leads her down into the mines with like the glowing mushrooms, all that shit. Isha was with them as well, and they made their way into the old office of Vander, which is within the mines. And it revealed a letter that essentially revealed why Vander did what he did to Silco, which is basically plucking out Silco's eye and essentially nearly killing him. And it was primarily due to the fact of their sort of differences on how to achieve Zonite independence. Because Vander seems to be more focused and more concerned on the people, but Silco was mainly more focused on just the nation itself, no matter what. Which does scream a lot of Silco. Now, other than that, um, when they were making down the mines towards the office, um, Vi and Jinx, they ended up getting into a fight, which ended up getting Isha into the crossfire a little bit, and she ended up getting a bloody nose. And with that blood dripping out of her nose, what happened? Warwick, or Vander, uh, awoken and went into a little bit of a frenzy. Again, um, Vi did a... Warwick got damaged by Vi punching him straight in the face, which destroyed his face actually, but again, his rapid accelerated regeneration, it didn't work, but after screaming out Vander's name out loud, they get into an embrace and let Jinx join in saying, he's your dad too. And everyone gets into a very, very bittersweet family hug. With Isha as well, as the adopted younger sister to Jinx. Now, I think this is the perfect segue towards, I would say, the third act, because that's when a lot of the climactic stuff comes out, as well as like the climactic events of Act Two of the finals of the second season. But basically, Jinx, Vi, and Vander and Isha decided to go to the Utopia of Victor. And everyone is basically in their glorious evolution phase in this one. And much like a scientist, despite the difficulties, Victor is like, okay, no matter what, I'm gonna try to heal Vander because there is still some humanity in Vander, and this was all going well. no conflict whatsoever. It seemed peaceful, right? It seemed peaceful. Everyone is happy. Everyone's getting healed. But no, with Singe creating like a compass to track down Warwick with his own blood, which is quite neat. They were able to track him down to the Utopia, and we get and then we get this conversation between Singe and Victor, and it discusses about a lot of their opinions on how to overcome death. With the most interesting part with Victor saying we shouldn't try to only overcome death, we should supersede it, which is fucking creepy and fucking mad. But he ended up saying the thing. And what was it? Well, he said the glorious evolution. So for you guys don't know, for like the people who don't play the game, him that quote is basically like Victor's famous quote that he always repeats in game. Obviously, Singe refuses, and it essentially leads to a a small reunion between Vi and Caitlyn, because Vi ended up following Singe back to the Noxian camp, and Caitlyn ended up ambushing Vi, and there seems to be still some feelings between them, even though that they have had a bit of a rough breakup. But other than that, it seems to be in a little bit good graces, just a little bit, at least for now. So the plan. So in the Noxian camp, both Caitlyn and Vi conjured up the plan that Caitlyn was going to bring in Vi as her prisoner, but obviously it's a ruse, and Ambessa gets incapacitated with Caitlyn's net, which is her E ability, by the way. Caitlyn's E ability to be fair. And while this scuffle was going to happen, that was when the plan was essentially revealed that they were going to try to pin down Warwick with, again, more of Singe blood, which ended up which ended up getting Warwick back into a bit slight, well, not really in a frenzy, but it gave him a reaction because during their time in the Utopia of the glorious evolution, um, Vander was starting to show a lot more of his humanity now. Like he started to climb up on his hind legs, and he started to speak a little bit more coherently and all that stuff. And that was when Singe tries to inject a serum to essentially get Warwick back, maybe onto his control or whatever. Caitlyn ended up ambushing him to make that to ended up stopping it, but then Rictus comes in, and then Jinx ends up saving Caitlyn, which is quite ironic, or not ironic, but quite funny. And it essentially just ended up in an anime fight between Rictus and Jinx, but obviously Rictus is a bit more of an experienced fighter than Jinx. But then Warwick wakes up and says, "Don't touch my daughter," and knocks Rictus the fuck out, literally out the window. And again, we have another small family. We have another small family reunion, and now that Vander's technically back up front, at least. And in the meantime, in the meantime, guess who's back? Jace. Jace. Oh my God, that man he went through a Terminator arc, and to summarize it, when him, Echo, and Heimerdinger get sucked into the anomaly within the massive hex core of the Hex Gate, um, Jace got transported into sort of an alternative what-if future, basically. And he went through a lot. He has a new hammer now. He ended up breaking his leg, which is why he's wearing a leg brace from like the parts of his old hammer. But the new hammer basically is more magical and not more mechanical or scientific because it's been twisted by the anomaly, at least within that timeline, and he just brought it back with him because he used his hammer again to try to repair his fucking leg. Oh yeah, he killed Sallow when he came back. Rip. I think that was like his confirmation. It was like, okay, I know what I need to do. But we'll get to what he what he knows. But basically, he made his way down into the utopia. He sees what Victor has become, and he just kills him. Well, kills. He kills him. Yeah. Victor got blown a hole right out him, and with that, everyone who was within the utopia just started to have their soul sucked out, and everyone just started shrieking like a siren, and everyone just started to die. And for Vander, that was also when he died because Warwick started to just go AWOL, and his blood seemed to like turn into like red lava mush, and that and that just got him all over the place. And it really did turn into mush because it seemed so hot that it was probably melting him from the inside, but the accelerated regeneration was actually just keeping him from falling into bits. And that ended up and his frenzy, Warwick's frenzy ended up like completely killing Rictus, which was when Ambessa saw that, ordered in a charge. Every Noxian just started to try to capture and fight Warwick, but Isha got like three hex crystals, one from Jinx's pistols, like she took it from Jinx, and two more from Vi's gauntlets. Gets it all inside, and just sets off like a a, a suicide bomb essentially. And yeah, yeah, Isha's dead. Isha's dead. And that was essentially like the closing acts of Act 2. Now, in Act 3, it started with what was happening with Echo, Heimerdinger, and Jace. Like, that was the first episode, or at least the first beginning parts of the episode. I can't really fully remember because pretty much every single act is like a movie in of itself. But anyways, going back. So essentially what happened to Echo and Heimerdinger specifically is that they essentially went into essentially an alternative timeline. And this alternative timeline is essentially when Hextech was never invented, and also when Vi's dead, and also when Vander and Silco settled their differences and made up for each other. And this is where we should go back to what Vi and Jinx found in the old office of Vander down in the mines. What they essentially found was an old letter that was supposed to be for Silco, and it essentially explains a lot of the harsh feelings that Vander was bottling up against Silco. And if this letter was found, they probably would have settled their differences. And this was, again, also when Hextech was never invented. And as a result of that, Vi ended up dying in the robbery attempt. And apparently it was Echo who gave in the tip to rob this particular apartment, which was Jace's apartment. And yeah, since there was no Hextech, that means there's no Arcane, there's no anomaly. But Echo ended up going back to the ruins of the old apartment building or the old apartment house, and he was able to get like very small scattered fragments of Hextech crystals all over the walls, or like the cracks, basically. And with Heimerdinger's help, they were able to get sort of a very small version of the anomaly. And in this process of trying to go back into their original timeline, Echo and Heimerdinger, and also with the help of this universe's Jinx, they started to create or invent Echo's Z drive. Now, the Z drive basically is the device that makes Echo rewind time 4 seconds, at least for him. Yeah, for him. And he only knows 4 seconds because he marks it, and obviously that wouldn't be enough. And in the meantime, Heimerdinger is like, okay, why don't you go spend some time with like this Jinx's with this Jinx so that we don't have our cover blown, In the meantime, I will try to crank it. That's in reference to season one. Very good. To which they nearly ended up sharing a kiss, and this pretty much confirms that in this particular timeline, Powder. I shouldn't say Jinx. Sorry, I was using Jinx, but in this particular timeline, she isn't referred to as Jinx. She's still referred to as Powder because Jinx isn't a thing. And here, the, it's been confirmed that the Echo and the Echo and the Powder in this particular universe are in a relationship. So then, now in the meantime, after they shared that small little moment, Echo finally went back to Heimerdinger, and he made essentially just a time machine to amplify the Z drive. Also, yeah, I finally turned the lights on because for some reason it was getting dark outside. Now, they finally get the Z drive cranked up to 100, and Heimerdinger, and as they were in the process of essentially trying to get ported back into their original timeline or universe, um, some screws uh, got loose. I'm saying that metaphorically, not literally. And Heimerdinger ended up saying his very famous quote, again, which is also in game, which was "never a dull moment." And he hops down, fixes the problem, plugs the plugs the machine back in, and he disappears. Now he didn't explode; he just disappeared. Now I don't. Now we don't know where he went, but it is implied that he may be dead. But he's not dead. Don't worry, people. Don't worry. He probably actually ended up going back to his back to the original timeline or somewhere a little bit farther in the past. But he's not dead. Don't worry. And it was then revealed sort of the plot or how sort of time traveling or dimensional travel works is that if you're going to travel to another dimension, you won't uh, be encountering your other version like physically. Instead, you will essentially have your mind embodied your mind uh, embody the version that different version of yourself in that particular universe. Because when Echo was finally going to be traveling back, the alternative Echo gets shot out, and our Echo went back after he shared one last look with the alternative Jinx. And what was going on with Jace? Well, like I said, Jace was going through his Terminator arc with that dimensional travel, and yeah, he's been through some shit. He's been through hell, like literal hell for him. And it essentially was Piltover and Zon, but everything was just engulfed in the anomaly, in the Arcane, and everything just looked void-like, basically. I'm still convinced that the Arcane is like a void, like a small, like I should say organism from the void. If you guys don't know what the void is, it's self-explanatory from what it is. It's basically the end of all universes in the League of Legends universe, but that has to be saved for another time. But when he reaches the top of, like, the very tip top of the Hex Gate, that was when Jace encounters the old mage from his younger years. And it's been revealed that this is future Victor. And what he revealed to Jace in this encounter was that he essentially really wanted to just end all of humanity, of end of humanity's endless conflicts, endless suffering, and all of that. But he did, which he did, at least in this alternative future. It's just that the catch was that he just removed all of life. So yeah, he was wrong. He essentially said I was wrong, and he sent Jace back to stop all of that from happening in the original timeline, which is how he got back. And when everyone's finally back, uh, Jace finally gets back to Piltover, and that was when he reunites with Mel. And let's get to Mel because Mel just went on to like an entire arc of her own. So where we left off with Mel before uh before Act 2 and Act 3 started was that she got kidnapped by the Black Rose, and she ended up essentially in the Dark Knight Rises pit by the Black Rose. I don't know what the whole deal is with it. I'm gonna be very, very honest with you guys. I don't know what the deal with the Black Rose is, other than the fact that the Black Rose and Clan Medarda, they have basically a feud, and both of them are at each other's throats. But the Medardas, they really want to get away from the Black Rose and all of that. So yeah, in the Dark Knight Rises pit, um, she reunited with her, reunited with her brother, Kino, who at this point thought was dead, but as we move on and on, he is actually dead, and that it was just an illusion. I mean, the whole Dark Knight Rises pit thing that where she was in, it's probably also just an illusion. Because again, it's the Black Rose. They do illusions like it's handing out chocolate, and um, the way that she found out was when obviously Kino was starting to act a little sketchy, and that was when she pins him against the wall, and blood magic just starts to go over the walls, and it's then revealed that the illusion was shifting through forms, like many, many forms, and then it shifted to young Mel, where it sort of like had like tear marks going down her cheeks, which is in reference to LeBlanc. So um, we could just say that this is LeBlanc. So yeah, this figure right here, who a lot of us thought was someone else, or who I thought was Victor. Like me, I thought that was Victor for some reason personally, because of the colored eyes. No, that's LeBlanc. So my apologies, that was LeBlanc. Now we all know. So then Mel gets chained up somewhere after she unleashes a very powerful amount of gold colored magic. Now, I don't know what type of magic that she has, but it's all based around the color gold because it's all over her back, and now it's all over her body. And with this now, she gets confronted with like this girl who also has the tear marks, which we could honestly suspect that she's talking to LeBlanc. And LeBlanc basically says that we will you will have to join us because we also want to stop your mother. And obviously, Mel isn't that dumb. She's not just gonna blindly join the Black Rose just to stop her mom. She's just gonna use the Black Rose uh, to her own advantage. To which she gets sent back to Piltover. Um, a lot of people are wondering like how she gets back to Piltover so quickly if she's like somewhere in like far, far away. They have portals, okay? I mean, the Black Rose literally kidnapped her from a region yonder away. So finally, let's go back to the main meat and potatoes. So basically, it's going to be an all-out war now because Victor wants everyone to ascend to the final glorious evolution, basically to become this. And Jace obviously knows that no, that's not going to happen because I know what's going to happen. This is not it. Because he's seen the what if future basically again. And that was when he held an emergency meeting with every single Piltover counselor, family, essentially all of the influential figures, and also Zon was also there with Civica and Scar representing the Fireflies. And most of them walked out, including all of the Zonite representatives. But it is now in the state. But now Piltover is in the state of war. Everyone is evacuating from the cities, taking zeppelins, trail cars, and all of that. Meanwhile, fathers are getting separated from their families to fight, and all that. Loris is training the piano boy, who, by the way, is not Jin, even though I really want it to be. Even though a lot of us assume, all of us lore nerds assumed it was Jin. No, it's not Jin, unfortunately, because Jin wouldn't really be a thing, at least in this timeline, at least where these events are taking place in the League of Legends timeline, Jin was probably still like in prison, so he's probably not going to be there. But yeah, as they're preparing for war, um, Vi ends up setting Jinx free, essentially apologizing to her, and she really asks Jinx to help out, but Jinx essentially comes to the conclusion that maybe it was best for her just to walk away, with a lot of the inner voices that she's talking to, like Silco and all of that. And yeah, she ends up escaping, but she also ends up locking up Vi in her place. To which we all know what scene was going to happen, or we know what's happening now. The next scene, right? We all know what's going to happen with the following scene. Yeah, Vi and Caitlyn, I guess they're back together. I guess it all just takes a war to get everyone to just settle everyone's differences. And apparently that scene was supposed to be a lot longer and a lot more spicier. um, so yeah, what we got as a final result was the kiddies version, apparently, and oh boy, doesn't matter what's happening all over the world. It doesn't matter what's happening in the city. It doesn't matter that we're in a state of war. What mattered was spicy sex. I should probably stop. Anyways, let's transition back. So after that scene, Jinx gets back into her hideout, and then she gets into the intent of essentially just wanting to end her life now because that's her form of walking away. So she pulls out her chopper grenade to do so, but Echo stops her and didn't work the first time. So Echo, using his Z drive, rewinds time back for 4 seconds, tries to convince Jinx again not to do so. Uh, doesn't work. So it takes a couple of tries. Like, he keeps rewinding time. Also, a very, very small detail here. The way that the Z drive works for Echo, every time he rewinds time, right? If he gets wounded, and in this case, he gets also blown up by the grenade. Like the blast hits him. You could see like there were smokes or steam coming off of his body, and that's because Echo will still feel the effects of the wounds or like the damage that he would sustain as he rewinds time. So it will still really, really hurt for him. So yeah, that's why he kind of looks like he's been through a rougher every time he rewinds time, just trying to convince Jinx not to blow herself up and all of that. So yeah, that got through to her, but obviously we wouldn't know up until essentially the final battle, which is just all-out war. Noxians with their shields and crossbows with spears fighting against Piltover soldiers and enforcers with rifles in makeshift barricaded covers. And a lot of people died in this one. First of all, one of the Jinx followers that was shown on screen died. Loris also died. Yeah. Um, I was actually quite sad that Loris died because I thought he was gonna actually have some more of a prevalent role, or at least I thought he was gonna at least survive. But no. Also, fun detail: the cannon that the people of Piltover are using literally just fires shipping crates when the cannons or ballistas for Noxus actually fires war machines. And then we get the moment with Ambessa with her Drake Hounds. And her Drake Hounds are basically like their gauntlets with like the two twin blades and all that stuff attached to chains. And she is wielding sort of the protective anti-magical runes that Rictus used to have on his spear, which she uses to protect against Caitlyn's sniper shots which is powered by Hextech, and Hextech again is powered by this anomaly, which is attached to the Arcane, which means it's magical. Now, it was then revealed what Singe has done for um, Ambessa as sort of like his weapons, like the weapons that he would offer at first, and it's essentially an entire legion, all juiced up in shimmer. I mean, look at this hunk. Look at this hunk, just pumped with it. My guy can like give Bane a run for his money. And he is pulling like the cocoon where Victor was supposed to be in. But obviously we know that Victor's not there. That was just a diversion tactic because Victor is in the Hex Gate where Jace was trying to shut down permanently so that Victor, sorry, wouldn't make the Eye of the Storm to make everyone ascend into like this glorious evolution, right? And by God, the new reveal for Victor's character design, oh my God, it looks absolutely sick. Personally, I'm like one of the many who loves the new design of Victor. I know a lot of people really don't like it. That's understandable, but for me personally, I absolutely love it. I mean, the guy looks like a holy figure with like the halo thanks to his third arm, doing like the rune calculations, all that. Pure body horror as well with the face as well. I liked it. And they ended up getting into a fight. The third arm shoots out his E with the lasers and all that stuff. Um, but before all of that happened, Jinx makes a dramatic entrance with like the massive uh, freaking air carrier Avengers size propeller along with the firelights, as well as the people of Zon essentially coming in clutch basically because I think they finally got uh they got fi- she got everyone to be convinced that hey, I think it's best for us to fight, and that's all thanks to Echo as well because he was able to convince Jinx, where Jinx was able to convince Savika and everyone else. And so yeah, everyone's coming in clutch, but in the meantime, we get into a sick confrontation between Mbessa and Caitlyn when she destroyed the cocoon, but she found out that Victor wasn't there, and she gets betrayed by Maddie. And oh boy, oh boy, I mean, uh, there are people speculating that maybe she was under wraps with the Noxians all this time, like way before Caitlyn became like a dictator and stuff. But no, I think she was just becoming like a fangirl for the Noxians. And when Caitlyn was mortally wounded and was about to get shot by Maddie, first of all, what a detail with the freeze frame of this, by the way, where it has like a creepy smile across Maddie's face. But another detail is that where Maddie was aiming her rifle to shoot Caitlyn, it was like at the root of like the spine that connects the neck to the rest of the spine. If like that part was shot, that's gonna like that's gonna be like a miserable death. And like I'm not gonna get too medical for it because that might be too graphic. Also, I don't know completely. I'm not a medical expert, but all I know is that if you shoot in that particular spot, that's gonna be so painful and so agonizing of a death. But Mel came in clutch, deflected a bullet, that killed Maddie. Um, yeah, that killed Maddie. To rest in peace. At the same time, I didn't have that much interest of her of her character, Maddie, that is, but um, Mel and Caitlyn team up against Mbessa into essentially what every ADC player gets into when they're going up against a Fed top laner. Just a support trying to peel the ADC back against the Fed top laner, that just kept closing the gap. And my God, that was relatable. But also in the scene, that was badass. We love an anime fight. Speaking of anime fights, let's go back to Jason Victor. They're having their own anime fight, but guess what? There's another anime fight because Jinx and Vi are fighting against Warwick that seemed well ascended to the Glorious Evolution. I forgot what the actual term is called because that is like named after skin now. That's probably out already. No, it's not. It's probably out next patch. Yeah. Uh, three anime fights are happening at the same time. We love it. And it was then everything just pauses because Victor react finally touched into the anomaly through the hex core in the hex gate, and everyone just paused fighting, including the dead ones. Everyone's minds just got linked to this glorious evolution. Well, at least they were about to ascend to it, like legitimately everyone, except for Echo, because Echo was speeding through it, and when there was a point where he was about to get tapped into, he would just rewind it back again with his Z drive for 4 seconds. He replays the fight in his head. He replays the fight, uh, does it a little bit better, gets caught, rewinds time back again, and all that stuff. But when he finally gets fully caught and is unable to rewind time again, he just tosses his Z drive that has a very small version of the anomaly, tosses it over to the anomaly that Victor was conjuring up to explode all over the place for the glorious evolution, right? And that stopped it. That stopped it basically. But in sort of the celestial realm of all of this, Victor looks like this. Yeah, man's Jesus. But Jace was about to get severed, but with the explosion that's happening in the real world, thanks to Echo, with the Z drive getting tossed into the anomaly, it severed that attempted linked up, and it wounded Victor, where the human side finally gets revealed, at least in this celestial level of a realm. And both Jace and Victor finally come to terms, and Jace said, "I just wanted my partner back. Let's just end this." And Jace reveals who the mage was to Victor, and it was essentially like his future self saying, "Listen, don't do this," and all that stuff, and that stops it. So after that, Victor and Jace clutched hands, embraced as partners, and the anomaly was gone, and all of these mannequin-looking things finally drops dead, and everyone who was linked up to sort of this ascension finally gets severed, and everything was just fine, pretty much so, except for one last moment, and that was when uh, Vi, Jinx, and Warwick got into another fight, and Jinx essentially saved Vi, but she was over a ledge, and Vi tried to save her, but Jinx knows that it's too late and that it's not worth saving her, and she basically said, "Always with you, sis." Deactivates Vi's gauntlet, which releases Vi from her, and she plummets down and explodes her chomper grenade with her and Warwick within it. However, I am not convinced that Jinx is dead. I mean, it is implying that Jinx is dead, right? No, because it is revealed much later on that there were some air ducts or some air vents within sort of that within sort of the tower of the hex gate, to which we can on thanks to Caitlin in her like Kierman archive recordings. Like that's what was revealed basically. So yeah, I'm not convinced that Jinx is dead, nor Warwick, unless Warwick is probably technically like dead temporarily, and Singe is just gonna get him back because obviously it's fucking Singe. And afterwards everyone was holding essentially a funeral for all of the lives that were lost, where they would write names of all the people that they have lost, and everyone would burn those pieces of papers where it will flow into the sky to remember them. And it seems that both Piltover and Zon, they seem to be a lot more united than before. And it's because it shows a scene of a counselor's meeting where Savika is taking a seat to give the people of Zon a voice. So we could probably say that maybe Zon has independence in some ways, but since they're still very linked up together, like both Piltover and Zon, Savika is still going to be at the counselors meeting to give Zon a voice, basically. So that's pretty much the purpose. Now, in the very, very last reveal that I would pretty much point out before I would answer like the question of like what should Riot do next for the series, is that it reveals a three-eyed raven. Now, a lot of people suspect that this is Swain, like for all of us lore nerds, but no. We've come to the conclusion that this was probably the demon that would later on possess or lend the powers or lend his powers to Swain, and that is the demon Realm. And Realm is basically the demon of knowledge and secrets, basically. That's all I could say. Like immense knowledge and secrets. So that's going to be for like the spin-off series, hopefully. So what should be next? What should Riot do next for their spin-off series, right? I mean, it's already been confirmed with many reports that they are planning to do a few more spin-off series. The exact number is not really confirmed, but they are planning to do so. And from the timeline that this Arcane series has been set in, I think the most logical route is to go to essentially the invasion of Ionia. Like that could be like the sequel setup, basically. Unless they decided to go to a different route where it essentially does the move of so this is what happened in the events of Arcane with Piltover and Zon. In the meantime, this was happening in Demacia, meanwhile. Or it couldn't only just be Demacia, it could be also up north in the Freljord, because I'm pretty sure the now I may be wrong on this, so don't take my word for it. But this is probably also around the time when probably one of my favorite characters in the League of Legends lore is going through his training arc over in Ionia. And to be honest, that could also coincide with the sort of sequel with the invasion of Ionia if they are going to focus on Noxus and Ionia. So that is probably the most logical route. So that's probably the most expected spin-off series that I'm gonna be looking forward to, and probably like what most of the community is gonna be looking forward to, and that is probably the invasion of Ionia, which is probably gonna be pretty cool. Now, what they should do is that they shouldn't sugarcoat what happened during this invasion because, uh, yikes, yeah, a lot of that happened. But that is essentially like that's it. Like that's the end of Arcane. That is gonna be it for the animated series from Riot, at least for now. And they are just gonna be back in the kitchen, doing some more cooking. And hopefully the next dish that they are gonna serve in this course is gonna be exquisite, much like the Arcane series. So that's pretty much it, guys. So I hope you all enjoyed this quite long overdue video for Arcane, at least from my channel. And make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a like down below, leave a comment on this video, and share this with your friends because why the hell not? And I also appreciate your support. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Over and out.